So hello, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us today for this webinar session on Atlassian Cloud versus Atlassian Data Center, presented by ISOS Technology, an Atlassian Platinum and Enterprise solution partner. We're going to get started with some intros, so let's introduce the ISOS team. I'm Danny Riley, Vice President of Business Development, and I'll let my team members introduce themselves.
Thanks, Danny. I'm Larry Cummings. I'm a lead solution engineer for ISOS Technology.
And I'm Mike March, and I am the head of innovation here at ISOS Technology.
Great, guys. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to get started out with a brief overview of ISOS Technology's Atlassian timeline and services. Then we'll set the stage for today's topics by taking a high-level look at the differences between Atlassian Cloud and data center deployment options. Once we've set the stage, we'll examine the readiness of Atlassian's cloud deployment option. Then next, we'll look at the deployment of Atlassian Data Center in many popular cloud platforms such as AWS, Azure, and GCP. And finally, we'll review a few client scenarios and their decisions when it came down to Atlassian Cloud or Data Center. And lastly, like I said, we'll wrap it all up with some Q&A and some details on how to get more information. I did want to mention that we're recording today's session and we'll make it available for everybody who registered. And as I mentioned, we're looking forward to the Q&A session. So please use the Zoom Q&A button on your control panel to submit your questions, and we'll queue them up and address them at the end. First off, ISOS Technology is a consulting firm that helps teams collaborate, communicate, and work more efficiently. We're passionate about using emergent technologies to solve real-world business problems. And as I mentioned, we're going to focus in on that Atlassian platform today. A little bit about our Atlassian timeline. We were founded in 2005, and day two purchased Confluence and Jira to manage our consulting practice, which at the time was mainly enterprise custom application development, doing a lot of B2B, B2C, and system integration work. When we were doing that and we exposed our projects to our clients through Jira and Confluence, we got a lot of good feedback from our clients who were living in email, living in spreadsheets, and really saw the value in a collaborative platform like Atlassian. So in 2008, we made it official. We joined the Atlassian ecosystem and ran those two consulting practices in parallel. In about 2012, we made some strategic hires around our Atlassian consulting practice and quickly became both enterprise and platinum certified with Atlassian, which is the two highest distinctions a solution partner can have. In 2016, when Atlassian was looking to roll out Atlassian University and their training partner program, they reached out to solution partners like ISOS Technology to help create that content and curriculum. In 2017, we were named Jira Service Desk Partner of the Year, mainly because we had done some of the most complex and largest Jira Service Desk implementations to date. And today, we're bringing Atlassian to the enterprise. A little bit about some of our locations. We're headquartered out of Phoenix, Arizona. We have another office in Washington, D.C. And we have a number of satellite offices located throughout the United States where we have offices and resources, hopefully close to your area. A little bit about what we do. Starting off with our Atlassian Fast Track, which is a condensed 4-day engagement to quickly address your top Atlassian priorities, all the way to our enterprise rollout. Currently, we are partnering with an American multinational financial company to consolidate more than 50 Atlassian incidents while creating an ETL framework and an Atlassian Center of Excellence for a complete enterprise rollout, including migration, governance, license management, training, and support. Then we have some very strategic initiatives such as ITSM, DevOps, portfolio management, and even cloud strategy, to name a few. And our most popular offerings is around our certified Atlassian managed services. We embed our team into your organization and become your Atlassian experts. This works with both cloud and data center deployment options and has been extremely popular with our clients over the past few years. Great, so now that we've set the stage with a little bit about who ISOS Technology is, let's dive into what's the difference between the Atlassian Cloud and data center deployment options. So as we look at cloud on the left-hand side here, we're going to see that Atlassian Cloud is, of course, hosted, set up, secured, and maintained by Atlassian. They take on all of that ownership, which means it's quick and easy to set up. It provides your organization and users with consistent access to the very latest version of the software. Again, there's no need to upgrade or maintain the software. Atlassian handles that. You have the ability for your team to work anywhere, as all they need is a secure web browser to get going and gain access. And of course, there's some cost savings due to the reduction in the need for expensive hardware and the maintenance and upkeep of support of the applications. So let's take a high-level look at Data Center. So Data Center is easy, customizable. The setup is controlled by you. You host it, you maintain it, and all of the product configuration is done internally on your own hardware or even through cloud platforms like I mentioned with AWS or others. This means that if you have isolation or encapsulation needs around sensitive material or strict data sovereignty requirements, you can manage those requirements within your own instance behind the firewall. It also provides exceptional security if your company operates or is regulated, again, to be behind the firewall in many regulated industries. And as I mentioned, absolute customization, where organizations need the ability to plug into APIs or even designate data center nodes for API access or running reports or very specific organizational components. Data Center is the behind the firewall option for your organization. Great. So now that we've taken a look at the high-level deployment options of cloud and Data Center, I'm going to hand it over to our Senior Solutions Engineer, Larry Cummings, to talk about the readiness of Atlassian Cloud.
Thanks, Danny. Atlassian has done an incredible amount of work to improve their cloud offering for enterprise readiness, and we're going to walk through a few of those things in these slides. First of all, both cloud and data center address what I'll consider table stakes. You can connect either product up to a directory servers. It comes out of the box with Google Directory, and then you can get Atlassian access to connect it through SAML to like Active Directory or really any LDAP server. LDAP directory connectivity is a standard feature in the data center product. Integration with non-Atlassian products has always been a big focus area for Atlassian, and cloud and data center can both be connected to other services very easily because Atlassian is so popular. And then recently this summer, Atlassian announced a new version of cloud called Cloud Premium that provides a 99.9% uptime, premium support, and unlimited storage. So this is their most enterprise-ready version of their cloud platform to date, and it's very impressive. So let's talk about, on the next slide, like what kind of organization tends to prefer cloud. Typically, a cloud first customer has already got an internal directive or initiative to use SaaS offerings whenever possible. The advantages here are they don't really have any server administration, and that's really a big driver. We also find a lot of people that prefer cloud are very interested and attracted to the immediate access and use model. You can essentially have your instance up and running in a matter of minutes and start adding people to it so they can start setting up their own projects. In that kind of a rollout, the focus is usually more on team autonomy. We're going to go ahead and let the teams configure their own projects and get up and running as fast as possible. Maybe after a few months of that rollout, we'll start looking at more standardization of project configurations and things like that in the tools. But that immediate access and team autonomy coupled together really allow for a rapid rollout. We also see a more specific focus on connecting or integrating our Atlassian Cloud with other cloud offerings. So if you're already using G Suite or Office 365 or Salesforce or on and on and on, a cloud-to-cloud sort of connectivity between Atlassian Cloud and these other cloud offerings is much more sort of natural in a cloud focused approach. And finally, we do tend to see customers that prefer the cloud offering because they really value the mobility and the portability of providing access. Any of the staff or distributed teams that need to be able to log in just need a web browser. You don't have to do any fancy VPN stuff or provide firewall rules that allow people outside of the network to get in. And it's much easier to get those folks up and running. The smartphone apps that are available for Atlassian came out for cloud first and are very attractive for that audience as well. So contrasting that with the data center audience, the data center audience is usually very interested in deep integrations. They really like not just the REST API capability that both cloud and data center provide, but they also want, like maybe the Java API to be available, or they want to do scripting or access the database directly. So they've already incurred or really taken on in-house administration for other tools that they maintain and govern, and they want to really approach the Atlassian products the same way. We tend to see more deliberate enterprise rollouts, a little less, let's get it up and running and get the teams in and they can start configuring their own projects. With a data center rollout, we often see, like an exercise of like, okay, well, let's go ahead and pre-configure some standard reference project configurations so that it matches how we work, and we'll gradually roll that out through the enterprise. And then finally, there's a real strong bias among data center organizations that have a high regulatory or IP protection vector that they're addressing. It's because it's housed in your own data center or in your hybrid cloud strategy, we can be very specific and tight with security and lock down access to information that we might not want to be available to folks outside the organization. And finally, there's quite a number of customers that are using both a cloud implementation or a cloud version of Atlassian's tools and a data center versions of Atlassian's tools. These are, because they're all Atlassian applications, they can be linked together and communicate with each other. And some of those features, like creating an issue in another instance that's linked to my instance, is something I can do directly from the interface. I don't have to switch. And it's very common to see folks do things like that. This is really useful when you have that regulatory or intellectual property policy dictating that these Atlassian tool users need to be in a locked down data center instance, but then maybe we have sort of more partner communications and hiring and like support activity that needs to be available to all of our customers or our partners. And so, moving the locked down work into a data center implementation and then providing that more public facing Atlassian Cloud instance for that other intended use is a very common scenario. And we really like that approach as well. All right. So in terms of like more advanced enterprise requirements, Atlassian Cloud comes out of the box with GDPR compliance. They also have teamed up to participate in the Privacy Shield framework, which is a compliance agreement between the EU and the US that provides common privacy oversight, verification, and it also provides a dispute resolution. So if you're working a lot with the EU, or you're in the EU and working a lot with the US, using the cloud provides not just GDPR, but also that Privacy Shield framework. Next. The enterprise readiness of the cloud is actually really good already, but there's a lot of things that they have in the pipeline, if you will, and have published a very detailed roadmap, and it's at this URL here, atlassian.com/trust/roadmap. I'm not going to read it all to you, but essentially, it lays out like, the specific things that they're already completed and the things that are coming in 2020 and beyond. And you can see they're broken down by security, reliability, privacy, compliance, and the platform. And I really recommend you go in and check that out, because if you have specific ISO like compliance that you need to address, or you have any other aspect of the platform that you want to investigate. It's a great place to start to understand all the things that are coming and already delivered on the cloud. Thanks, and I'm going to hand it over to Mike March. He's going to walk us through deploying on a hybrid cloud solution, for instance, using Amazon Web Services.
Thanks, Larry. Cool. So let's talk about running data center in the cloud. But first, next slide. Let's talk about why data center in general, regardless of where it is, because the data center can run in your internal infrastructure or in the cloud. So let's talk about what data center does. So first of all of the Atlassian products that offer a data center version offer these kind of features across the board. First, they all have high availability with active clustering, which can be used for both performance scaling N+1 servers or redundancy. So if one server goes down, your cluster stays up. All of the data center products, they support SSO via SAML 2.0, all the box, it's great. Previously with server, you'd have to get a third-party add-on, now it's built in. The cost of data center is, it is a price per user. So in the past with a lot of enterprise products, they charge you, like Oracle, they would charge you per CPU core per server. That's out. You can throw as much hardware as you want or don't want at a Atlassian data center cluster, and then they charge you per user, which gives you a lot of flexibility about how you want to scale it or something like that. All of them offer, each product offers its own out-of-the-box disaster recovery technology and options. And all of them offer, or they're starting to offer, CDN support. So let's talk about Jira specifically. Jira, again, for a lot of companies and organizations, it becomes very critical. So these are some like enterprise critical features they added into the Jira version. First of all, you can upgrade Jira with zero downtime. So you can basically upgrade one node at a time, and your user population will have no idea that an upgrade is happening. You should probably set up comms about it, but in a realistic sense, your cluster can be up on a 24/7 basis, even during an upgrade. Jira Data Center now offers project and issue archiving. So before, when you'd have to on server, when you do an archive, you do like a permission schemes change. Now this actually takes the issues and projects out of the index, thus increasing your performance, which is great. A huge thing that Jira Data Center offers is index management. You can now, for instance, do a full index of your database and not take the node down. Whereas with server, a full index could take you offline for hours, which is great. And finally, you can have nodes in your cluster that are specialized for a specific purpose. For instance, you can have a node dedicated to API calls for automation. You can have a node dedicated to enterprise reporting, and it's a great way to kind of manage and partition the traffic going into your Jira cluster. Confluence Data Center offers two great features beyond what Data Center offers to all the each product. It has a read-only mode, which allows you to put your cluster into a mode where data can't be changed, so you can do maintenance on it in the background. Because there's a lot of times when you want to have Jira up, even during a downtime, to read operational documentation or provide it read-only access to your clients. Also, it allows you, in Confluence 6.0, they added the feature of collaborative editing. And with Confluence Data Center, you can now take those services that offer that collaborative editing feature and scale it independently on its own nodes. And therefore, you can separately scale that traffic. Finally, on Bitbucket Data Center, it offers some great features. One of them is a smart mirror feature. There's a lot of times where you might have a have dev teams that are geographically dispersed around the globe, you can take certain projects and repositories and mirror just those projects close to your teams, or you can take mirrors of those projects and put it closer to your CI/CD pipelines, which is great. Again, all to enhance reliability and performance. Bitbucket Data Center, it allows you to do a atomic backup of the infrastructure with no downtime. With a server, if you want a guaranteed consistent backup of your whole instance, it does require some downtime. And finally, like Confluence, where you can scale the collaborative editing features or services, you can in Bitbucket externalize your code search. Bitbucket has great code searching features. You can now scale that independently of the general cluster that hosts your Bitbucket services. Now, when should you consider data center? So if you are hitting the 500 user mark to 1,000 because of pricing and everything else, that's a great way to start to consider it. If you're under that, only if you have extreme performance problems should you probably consider data center. Also, what's your rate of growth from 500 in the next 12 months? If you feel that you're going to reach 500 in the next 12 months, you should consider this as a deployment option. And in our experience, half our customers that reach that 500 user tier definitely start to consider data center for any of the Atlassian offerings. A lot of our clients, they have, as Jira and Confluence become more popular in the enterprise, they have peak performance issues where like they'll tell us every day at 9 a.m., Monday through Friday, our Jira becomes very strained. Well, the data center product allows you to pre-provision or on the fly scale as your traffic needs increase. And also CDN support allows you to make sure that if you have like a Jira instance that is used across the globe, the perceived performance of Jira will be consistent to not only people like in the States or in Europe, but across the whole world, basically. Next slide. And as the Atlassian suite becomes popular, the Atlassian apps become mission critical, and sometimes in a 24/7 type way. And data center, it allows you to make sure that you can give that service SLAs to your internal and external clients by doing the zero uptime upgrades, by making data center available in a read-only mode. All those things make it so each Atlassian app is hardened for your enterprise and can be used as a critical piece of your infrastructure. So we just talked about data center on its own. Data center becomes even better when it's deployed in the cloud, and we're going to focus specifically on Amazon, but most of these points work well with any cloud provider. So why we like Amazon is, first of all, Amazon has their new database called Aurora, and it's a super fast, super scalable version of Postgres. Amazon has CloudFront, which allow you to spin up whole tiers, you spin up your whole infrastructure with like a few commands or from a console. It's great. And with that, your infrastructure provisioning and upgrading becomes like code. So you can, whereas a lot of our clients who have internal infrastructure, like on VMware, it's much harder to automate the provisioning of an entire tier of Jira, like a production or a dev tier. The Amazon has built-in infrastructure and application monitoring. There's free stuff that comes with it, and there's extra pay options that you can quickly create all this tooling to make sure that your infrastructure is healthy. And the application load balancer that's included with Amazon now is a great tool, and it has a lot of beyond just being a load balancer. It has a lot of rich things that help you protect and scale your Atlassian applications. And with Amazon, you kind of treat your infrastructure more like cattle. You like systematically deal with it instead of individually tending to it like you would a pet. Next. Great. And so finally, what we're going to talk about here is some real world examples where we've helped our clients analyze and move to a certain deployment option from where they are now. These stories are true, just the names have been changed to protect the innocent. So let's go do that. Great. So first example we have here, we had a client that was a health insurance carrier, and they had 500 users on a 5-year-old installation of version 1 from CollabNet. Their issues were, first of all, when they analyzed, and when we helped them do this, when we analyzed their whole installation, they thought they needed their data hosted on their internal servers because they thought that there'd be client or customer data in their instance, but there really wasn't. So they had no need to be on private servers. 2, they could hardly or ever do a successful upgrade of their server. So they were really far behind in both features, and there were also some security issues that they couldn't address because they couldn't upgrade. And finally, it was an expensive product, which they didn't mind, except the fact that they want all these features which they couldn't give. So they were paying a lot of money per seat for a product that couldn't give them the features that they wanted. So what we did is we helped them do an analysis, and we figured out that they could move to Jira Cloud. And what they liked is Jira Cloud was always the most current version and was very fast. They had people all over the country, and everyone could access it, and it worked out great. Jira Cloud allowed them to work in the agile way they were already used to in version 1, but they could also add more processes via workflows that they couldn't get. So they could stay agile, they could enforce process in a way that didn't present friction to their organization. And finally, Jira Cloud gave them an apps ecosystem that they could only dream of with their old product. And it allowed them to add stuff like diagramming tools, project visualizations, and other features that they just couldn't get out of their old server installation of version 1. And what ISOs did is, as part of not just doing their whole planning of the move, we helped them move 200,000 version 1 stories and all the history and all the attachments. So they retained almost 100% of their data from their old system, and it was moved into the cloud. We were able to batch those moves based on like they have a lot of groups working on different projects and products internally, and so we were able to do it over a series of moves, not just one big bang. And finally, we were able to retain, version 1 has very complex linking between stories and epics, and we were able to maintain all that linking. So all the type of hierarchical relationships that they were used to in version 1 were moved into Jira. Next example, we had a software services company with 1,000 users on a 2.5-year installation, and they were on Jira Cloud. And their problems were, first of all, they had some performance issues, not all the time, but certain things when they would do a lot of API calls, they had some issues that Atlassian couldn't help them fix. They had some advanced workflow automation needs that Cloud couldn't quite do for them. they wanted to change the UI and the look of their cloud installation. They've done they had a huge investment in their branding, and they couldn't extend that into their Jira installation. And finally, they want to be able to test changes to everything before they were rolled out to their internal and external clients, like workflow changes, new custom fields, add-ons, and stuff like that. So what we did is we helped them move from cloud to Jira Data Center, and we allowed them. We helped them set up a testing harness so they could scale and predict the exact performance for the type of automation calls that they were going to make to Jira. Data Center has some add-ons that allow them to do some very rich and deep workflow automation that kind of solve all the internal problems that they wanted to have Jira address. They were able to take the Jira installation and skin it so it looked just like one of their internal intranet sites. And finally, we allowed them to easily create non-production tiers, dev, test, stage, and we implemented our product called Click to Clone that helped them take their prod data and replicate it into the non-prod environments. So what did we do with this? We helped them move all their issues from the cloud into Data Center, and we did that all as one big push. We helped them refactor their workflows. So first of all, there's changes that you have to make to workflows when you move from cloud to server or server to cloud, and we help them make those changes. And in the process, we also help them refactor and make the workflows more efficient. And then we created a testing harness to help them predict their performance needs and help them scale. And finally, we have the example of a marketing agency. They're 300 plus users, and this was a 6-year-old installation of Jira Server. Their problems were they had performance problems. They were that typical case where they'd say every morning at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. Jira would go down for like a half hour, cause big problems. They had an outdated version of Jira because it had not really been upgraded in 5 years. So they were stuck at 6.4. And they also had it where their Jira was behind their corporate firewall. So they have a lot of vendors that they collaborate with on a lot of their creative endeavors, and getting them access to the Jira was a huge onboarding mess, and it caused a lot of friction there. So we helped them move to Jira Cloud. And what Jira Cloud did for them is, first of all, Jira Cloud performance, as Larry said during his presentation, is really good now. Jira Cloud Standard's good, and they also have their enterprise version that's even better. But either way, it worked great for them. Way better than what they had on their internal server version. Jira Cloud also always updated, so all these features that their internal people have been hearing about for 5 years came in, dropped in, and they had it right away, and they just went crazy just using all the out-of-the-box features, not counting other applications that they started to install. And the biggest win actually turned out to be is how easy it was to onboard external vendors they dealt with into their Jira. So now these vendors can easily be onboarded and can become part of their teams and help solve problems faster internally. So ISOs, our job is we helped them move all their issues from their Jira server into cloud, and we did it all in one push. We helped re-implement workflows. They didn't have a lot of big changes, so we just helped them adapt them to cloud and help them do some slight refactoring. And finally, because although cloud is great and it's new, it is a radical change from the version they had from a look and feel and new features. So we help them create customized in-house training to help ease that transition from their internal server version into cloud. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Larry. All good stuff and a lot of information about both cloud and data center. We've had a lot of questions come in throughout the course of the session today. So we're going to take some time now to address those, but keep them coming. We have, I don't know, another 15 to 20 minutes if we should need it, but we'll go through and start to address some of these questions as they were presented. So just going down the list, first one, can you explain the difference in pricing or licensing between cloud and data center? I can take that one and feel free to chime in, guys. So I think we touched on it briefly in some of the slides, but Atlassian Cloud is licensed and priced on a per user basis. You can add a single user or user by user for those products. Allows you to kind of dial that into the specific number of users that you have or need to have active. Atlassian Data Center, on the other hand, is a tiered structure. So you have user tiers ranging from 500 to 1,000, and then they increment by 1,000 each time. So that's the major difference there. Both are a subscription based, meaning they're annual subscriptions that you pay. So again, it's really if you need to kind of dial it into the exact number of users, but for larger organizations that have thousands and expect to expand quickly, on the data center side, you have those various tiers that you can upgrade to if need be. Let's see, next question is around data storage. Are there any data storage limits on Atlassian Cloud? Again, I think we touched on it briefly, but yes, there are some storage limitations. Storage for Jira products and Confluence is primarily made up of attachments, but each product, so Jira and Confluence, comes with its own storage space, each of 250 gigabyte per product. And that, as you add more products, you increase by 250. And again, there's always Atlassian Cloud Premium, which provides you unlimited storage as well. Let's see, next, can Atlassian Cloud explicitly enforce data sovereignty? We can't ever have our data leave the US regulatory geographic. Can Atlassian guarantee that? I'll leave that over to Larry or Mike.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So the way that Atlassian Cloud addresses data sovereignty today is based on the geography of the users that are accessing the cloud application. So like if you deploy Atlassian Cloud and all of your users are in North America, then it's going to keep the data in North America. Conversely, if they're all in Europe, it's going to be in Europe, Africa, wherever. So they are on the roadmap. Atlassian is committed to providing like an explicit geography setting so that you can tell Atlassian, hey, the data residency needs to be in this geography, and that's on the coming soon list for the cloud. And this will be true for both cloud and premium, as I understand it. And then that's for data at rest. And then after that, they'll be rolling out what we call secondary data, which is essentially the indexing of your Jira issues or your Confluence issues, which might be more in memory. That will be also something you can explicitly dictate, like this is the geography that we need data at rest and data, secondary data to be housed within.
Great, thanks.
Oh,
go ahead, Mike, please.
Oh, sorry. But what I'd like to add, though, that is all what Larry just said is true for the Atlassian apps proper, but there's no guarantee for that for the add-ons. So like add-ons and apps are separate and have their own policies beyond the Atlassian apps themselves in the cloud.
Yeah, that's a great point, because when you have a cloud app, like, maybe you're using Tempo timesheets or, something like that, the third-party vendor that produces that app and attaches to your cloud instance stores their app-specific data on their own systems. And so, there might be a data privacy, data residency policy from that third-party vendor, but you'd have to interact, with those policies directly with that vendor.
Great, thanks guys. So the next question, actually, two questions that are similar, so I'll try and munge those together. Let's see. If I don't get Cloud Premium, what's the uptime like? And then the other question in line with that is that you mentioned an upscale plan, which I assume is premium, with actual uptime SLA and unlimited storage. So I guess the two questions are around what's the uptime like in Cloud Standard and Cloud Premium?
Well, the uptime's, Cloud Standard has actually been heavily invested in by Atlassian. There's lots of blog posts about the engineering effort that went into that. And the uptime and reliability of the platform is excellent now. I don't have like a specific SLA level on what I'll call the standard version of Cloud, but you can go to the status.atlassian.com and actually see the historic uptime there. For all of their cloud applications. So they're very transparent about that. On the premium, it's not just that you get the unlimited storage and the 99.9% SLA for uptime, but you also get access to premium support, which means that your response time on any performance issues or downtime is managed directly by a single point of contact within Atlassian that understands how your organization works over time and can address problems more proactively. So that's really the gist of the difference is that, we're expecting, you're definitely going to be, if you're a Cloud Premium customer, interested in hooking up to like an Active Directory, and you're definitely going to be interested in that higher availability and uptime guarantee. And so we also want you to have a sort of front row seat to any support issues that you raise.
Great. Okay, next question. You mentioned that Jira Cloud is managed and upgraded by Atlassian. How does Atlassian manage partner plugins? Meaning when they do upgrades, how do they upgrade the plugins or compatibility?
Great. Yeah, I actually, posted a link in the answered questions in the Q&A to the overview of, this is an overview document written from the perspective of somebody that's putting an app in the marketplace for cloud, but it does outline how, as they roll out their, weekly, updates to the cloud platform, how that can impact a plugin. And the short answer is if you're using Atlassian Connect, which is really the way that all apps interact with cloud applications from third-party vendors, that API actually automatically rolls out those updates. There are a few situations where a plugin might have a compatibility issue and it will essentially not upgrade automatically. And then when it becomes compatible, it can upgrade automatically, or you can have an explicit, like a manage apps, update link so that you ask your users to manually update. But the manual updates are very rare. It's almost always automatic. About 2 years ago, when Tempo moved into the Atlassian Connect configuration, they had been housing data right in Jira instances in the cloud, which was the old model. You can't do that anymore, but Atlassian Connect provides all that interaction. So essentially what happened was if you were a cloud customer using Tempo, and this is true for really all of them, but I'm just picking on Tempo, suddenly, one afternoon, your Tempo interface changed over to the new cloud configuration. And they sent out some announcements to let people know this was coming and to provide, some video overviews of how the new interface worked. But that's essentially the model that they all use.
Yeah, and like one thing to add is the APIs for Connect are a lot more stable than the old time Jira APIs used by Jira Server and Data Center. So the need for upgrading and the incompatibility issues are a lot less when you use the Connect add-ons for cloud as opposed to the internal add-ons for server or Data Center. So it's much less of an issue anyways.
Great. Yeah, some good questions coming in. So thanks, everybody. Keep them coming. Let's see, next one. You said something about dedicated nodes in data center. I think you mentioned API usage. Can you give any more specific examples why companies might do this?
Sure. Yeah. So the first example is API nodes. We have a lot of clients who they have a lot of automation. We have we have a lot of clients who do a lot of extraction out of their Jira for their data warehouse, like Tableau or something like that. And they have a node. If they didn't have that dedicated node, one of their client nodes that serves their like web traffic would be impacted, and so it like isolates that off. And so those are the two main things that people use those dedicated nodes for. Also, people have a node, some of them just for re-indexing. Like there's a lot of people that tend to have, they want to make sure that if they sense that there's a slightest problem with their index, they have a node dedicated just for that. So on the fly at any time, they can do a full re-index of their cluster. So those are the kind of like the three examples why people use those dedicated nodes.
Great, perfect. You may have addressed this one already, Larry, with the data sovereignty, but I want to put it out there. Can I geographically distribute nodes with Atlassian Data Center products?
Distributing nodes. Okay, so this is I want to put one node in Europe and one node in North America. Yep. Mike, that might be more for you, actually.
Sure. Yeah. The only product right now that kind of guarantees that is Bitbucket with its smart mirroring, right? That's where you can take some or all of your your Bitbucket cluster and put it into a different geographical area. Right now, Jira and Confluence, they can be in different availability zones in like Amazon, but you can't have it in a completely different data center. That is on Atlassian's technical roadmap, but it's not available right now.
Cool. And on the Bitbucket, the mirroring is for pulling code down to my dev environment. That's what like when I commit, I still go back to the mothership, if you will, right?
Smart mirrors will manage that whole thing for you. So,
oh, great. Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah. It's smart, Larry.
There you go.
Smart mirrors.
Great. All right. So do you use quick start templates provided by Atlassian when deploying data center applications in AWS?
I'll take that. So when they first came out, we did not. Now we're using them more and more. The quick start templates have gone along. They've come a long way. They've added things that we've asked for. We still primarily do not use it because we have our own best practices. But our templates are very close to them now. And we would not tell client not to use them if they're doing it on their own. They are very good now. So I would say if this was asked last year, I'd say definitely not. Now it's like, it's up to you.
Great. Okay. And the last one in the queue that I see is what should I consider when deciding the sizing of data center clusters in the cloud?
So the question again is, what should they consider? I'm sorry?
What should I consider when deciding the sizing around a data center cluster in the cloud?
Cool. Yeah. So typically, if you're coming from like server already, we say for your first node, for your N+1 nodes, it should at least that first node should be at least the size of your current server node plus. And so we say, like, maybe over provision 50% of your current node, and that becomes the template. And then what we typically do is we at least spin up 2 nodes, and so you have that one node plus one more. So that makes sure that your client, that your cluster is working. And it automatically starts to move traffic between both. And then we say, most of our clients do at least probably 3, but 2 is fine. And then you put in rules for how it scales in an automatic fashion. And we do very conservative rules because the startup time of of a new node takes a while, like, can take up to like maybe 20 minutes or so. So you don't want that scaling event to happen on a hair trigger. But basically, so to like finalize it, your current node size plus, plus 50%. Atlassian has a t-shirt sizing grid on their site. I would add to that too. That's based on pretty old information. So, but theirs is a good guide plus 50% whatever they say it's a good rule of thumb. But obviously each specific instance has its own way that you provision and you pick what you need.
Great. All right, everybody, that was the last question I see in the queue. So
actually, Danny, there is one more question in the Q&A.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah, Arnhem asks, you mentioned some upscale plan, Cloud Premium, with actual SLA and unlimited storage. How much extra is it compared to the regular plan? The quick answer to that is that the Cloud Premium starts at $14 per user per month, and the standard plan starts at $7 per user per month. And depending on like which particular like level of users you have, that number will vary slightly. But with that guaranteed 99.9% uptime and the premium support and the unlimited storage, it's approximately double per user per month.
All right, Larry, thank you for catching that one. Appreciate it.
Sure.
So that is the last question. I wanted to again thank everybody for your time and your interest in today's webinar session around Atlassian's Cloud and Data Center. If you do have questions or would like to dive a little bit deeper into Atlassian Cloud or Data Center, my contact information is here. We do have some strategic services around cloud readiness that dive much deeper into all of these concepts to help you and your team evaluate that. So please feel free to reach out. Larry and Mike, want to thank you again for your time and expertise today. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.